Okay guys, what I'm going to do here today is I'm going to answer one of the most frequent questions that I've had asked about dynamic speed work or speed bench work for well over a decade. That question is, how much weight or what percentage should I use for dynamic bench work? This usually comes with the person stating that Westside Barbell Book of Methods says use this percent. Somebody else says use this percent. If they've read articles where I've said use a different percent. So there's a lot of confusion over what percentage to use. Just figure it out for yourself. And what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. What percentage works best for one person may not work for another person. For instance, an advanced lifter will need a lower percentage than an intermediate or a beginner lifter. And a lot of that's just based upon their skill, of being able to do the bench press or how tuned their central nervous system is. The way to do this is I'm going to start with a dime on each side of the bar, which is still warm up weight. And every set I'm going to add another plate dime per set. So the first set's going to be 65 pounds. That's so light that if I was to push with maximum force, my shoulders are going to come off the bench. I'll probably hyperextend my elbows. So with those sets, I'm not going to apply maximum force because they're just warm-up sets. So I'm going to keep doing warm-up sets just by adding one dime per side until it gets to a range that feels like now I can apply maximum force or compensatory acceleration. Just push as hard as I possibly can. And when I push as hard as I possibly can, I'm still going to be able to maintain technique. It's not going to be too light. It's going to have enough force. So if you want to know what the force is, it's like 0.8 meters per second, but this is a weight that I can move with really good force. It's not heavy. The force is solid. I have to stay tight. It's still a bench press and it's still moving with speed. When I determine whatever that weight is, I'm going to mark a chalk mark on it, right? And then that chalk mark's going to remind me when I'm done with this where that weight was. And then as long as I can apply that same degree of force and it feels the same way, then I'm going to keep adding a dime per side. At some point, it's going to become too much weight to where I can't apply that same degree of force. Then I'm going to chalk mark that. And the grip I'm going to use is going to be my medium grip. So not the close grip, not the wide grip. The reason for that is currently right now my wider grip is a lot stronger than what my close grip is. So if I go with my medium grip, it's going to be an average. And then when I'm done, you're going to see that there's 3 different weights that I'm going to use for my dynamic bench wave. So it's going to be a 3-week wave. So the first week is going to start out, if I remember correctly what it was, probably 135 is going to be the weight that I'm going to use. I'm also using chains. I'll get to that in a minute. And then the next weight, or the next week, is going to be an addition of 20 more pounds. Then the next week is going to be 20 more pounds. And then after that, I'll go back down and probably change the exercise and go to another speed bench variation. Watch the video, kind of pay attention a little bit to the bar speed. So when you go about determining what your speed wave is going to be, I like 3-week waves. So if you determine what that wave's going to be, based upon what your own strength is, then you don't have to worry about this person's recommendation, because you already know what it is based upon yourself. So that's the best way. So check out the rest of the video. You'll be able to see. Got a couple more tips at the end of the video. So thank you guys, I appreciate it. Click the like button, right? The subscribe button, comment, and all the other crap that you're supposed to do. Again, this is just a warm-up set, so I'm not gonna try to push it with maximum force. Another important thing that I forgot to mention is I used my medium grip. So I didn't use my strongest grip and I didn't use my weakest grip. I used my medium grip. But then when I do train and do this speed work each week for the 3-week waves, I will use 3 different grips. I'll use a close grip, I'll use a medium grip, then I'll use the wide grip. But when trying to determine what the speed work is going to be, you want to use that in-between grip. That way it's not based upon the strongest nor the weakest. I'm going to use chains for this wave. So what I did is I did a couple sets with just to move the chains out from the bench a little bit. That's why I didn't put them on first, because I don't want the chains whacking the bench. I'll probably put another chain per side. But when using chains with speed work, because the chains should deload pretty much all the way at the bottom, you don't want to factor that in. You're just going to throw them over top. So I like, when I'm trying to figure out the percentage, to keep that so I can use that as a gauge as well. Do the same thing with the bands. That way you don't have to worry about what percentage of band, what percentage of chain, because the same concept's still going to hold true. Because right now I'm just trying to gauge what that start range and what that end range is going to be for over a 3-week phase. See that one right there? That was too heavy for speed work. Okay, to recap, what I did here was to determine where my range is for speed work. Started with a dime per side and worked up a dime each set. Right about here, where I've had the first chalk line, is when it started to feel like speed work should feel. It was a little light, but at that weight there, let's say, add a little bit to it, that would be 135. So basically a plate per side is where I would start my 3-week wave, because that's where it started to feel right. Then each set that I jumped up that felt like speed work, I put a chalk mark on it. This last one here, that was a little bit too heavy for it to be speed work. So where my 3-week wave would be with this is going to be basically 135, 155, like 185, over a 3-week wave. And then that's dead on exactly where it should be. Where I would guess my raw bench to be right about now is probably 315. Not great, but it doesn't really matter. It's all relevant on where it comes down to. So if you figure the percentages of that out, that's kind of where it is. And this is with 2 chains per side. Like I said, with the chains per side, it doesn't For me, the way that I look at it, it doesn't change what the speed weight's going to be because it's deloaded at the bottom. All the chains are doing is accommodating the resistance. If I was to use a band for this, then whatever the band tension is at the bottom would have to come off of the bar for that speed work. This is the easiest way to be able to figure out what your speed work should be if you're going to run in 3-week waves for your bench press.